I built this temporary workbench, but the question is, how long is temporary? What do you think? Let me know. I'll also give you my guess at the end, but fact is I needed some workbench for the new workshop. And since I didn't know what or if I wanted any kind of special features, I went with a relatively simple one. But it has one special feature, which are concrete tiles as side panels to make it heavy. Check out the build and take your guess on how long it will last. The current temporary bench are these two sawhorses with the workbench top on top. I got it with the edging for about 80 bucks. That's good. It will be the top again. I now just need to build the base. And although it will be temporary, I still want to build it relatively strong and stable because you never know. A perfect use for the leftover construction lumber from building the shop walls. Got about 9 meters of material, which is enough. A drawing with the dimensions. So first, cutting everything to rough length. Okay, cut to length. The design is pretty basic. 4 legs, 4 stretchers, 2 rails. Actually 3, because I want those a bit wider. So I cut the third one in half and glue it on top of the others. Okay, parts are out of the clamps and I could just continue as is, but I think I will joint and plane everything to the same dimensions. And it also has the benefit that I can try out the new setup and see if I like the machine arrangement. With Robin helping me, jointing and especially planing is a lot quicker than being alone. Now with everything at thickness, I cut the long rails to final width at a table saw. Alright, next now is cutting everything to final length and then we can go on with the joinery. For the joinery, the best and quickest way for me is to use the pantry router. And I'm going to use a double mortise and tenon with these two templates for the big rails and a single mortise and tenon with this template for all the stretchers. Setting it up is pretty quick. It's all set up. I can position my first piece, clamp it and begin with the mortises. That was all the double mortises. So now I set up for cutting the double tenons and the rails. My lifting table is at the same height as the pantry router to support the other end. With the flip stop I can set a consistent overhang. Then I touch the wood and set my depth of cut. And the guide bearing goes to the outside of the templates now to trace the shape of the outside tenon. Dust collection brush, you can't see now, but I don't want the mess. Test fit. Oh, still too tight. That's good, because I can adjust smaller. Template is tapered, so adjusting the bearing forward will cut a smaller tenon. Okay, I had to do one more adjustment, but now it fits. Perfect. Now I can flip it around. I got the same here. Joinery for the rails is done. Now come the stretchers. So I set up the pantry order for that. Part is in position, one smaller template and a chunky bit. For the mortise of the lower stretcher, I can align a mark on the piece with a mark on the table. Right there. Yeah, once set up, it's super speedy. Now I switch to a smaller bit and have the follower pin in the center of the template to cut a centered through hole through the mortise. And that hole is for this screw to mount the stretcher. And at the drill press, I counterbore the holes to sink in the screw heads below the surface. And why I chose to screw that instead of gluing, you'll see later. To cut the big tenons, I'm switching to a different bit again. And the big guide bearing that's meant for this big tenon. In the same setup, but with a smaller bit and again centered in the template, I plunged a starting hole for the screw. Now the joinery is done, but before gluing I want to do one more addition, because with the whole workbench just being the top and this little bit of wood, it will be relatively light. And with it being freestanding, it will shift around. I don't want that, so I want to add some mass. And the cheapest, easiest way I think is to integrate these concrete floor tiles. Ouch. They're 50 by 50 centimeters, 4 centimeters thick and just over 20 kilos each and just cost €3.50 each. And I can nicely integrate them like panels into the side frames. So a leg here, and stretcher here. I of course designed the frame dimensions around the tile size, and now to integrate it into here I need to cut some dados where it fits in. I set up my little router and I'm ready to go. This will take a minute. First two cuts from both sides are done, so this is perfectly centered. Now I make adjustment to the fence to cut off a bit more and repeat until I'm at the right width. And there it fits. The stretchers I'm going to make with a series of cuts on the table saw. They turn out a bit thin on the sides, but that will still work. Okay, it generally works, but there are problems and assembly will be kind of difficult. So the dimensions here are a bit off. This is more like 51 centimeters instead of just over 50 as I wanted. Here it's correct. These walls are so flimsy, one already broke and I glued it back together. That's drying right now. and installing the screws when there is a lot of weight on there and accessibility is bad is, yeah, difficult. But doesn't matter, I have to work with what I've got. The wrong distance I can compensate with some rubber and foam tape, which is actually good because this will kind of clamp the plate in between the frame. And if I keep the order of assembly right, I shouldn't damage any more of the thin walls. But first I'm gonna finish everything else about the parts, which is chamfers and mounting holes for the tabletop, so I only have to assemble it once. Okay, everything is rounded and I have counterbore holes for mounting the tabletop. What I can also do before gluing is preparing for the leveling feet. There, this time I have a store-bought one with a ball joint, a long threaded rod for adjusting and a dampening pad that's also pretty grippy. That's great. I just now need to make a steel mounting plate and drill a hole into the bottom of the leg. That looks good. And those now get screwed to the bottom. Okay, and with that, everything is ready for gluing and assembly. I already prepared a ratchet strap for clamping, so let's do it. Parts are glued and dry. Time for assembly on the bench. Partially assembled like this, I can perfectly position it on the top and transfer the hole positions for mounting it. Now I have little marks where I'm going to install threaded inserts, so I've prepared the right size drill bit with a depth stop, so now drilling and then screwing them in. Below the surface, good. Okay, now my idea for the order of assembly to get this working. First the rubber and foam strips, rubber on the bottom, foam on top. Now I'm going to screw in the bottom parts. Lay it flat again and raise it off the floor a bit. Glue some rubber in here as well, but a thinner one. Now the concrete plates. The top pieces with the foam. Now the other frame, again with some foam to press against the concrete. Now I clamp this together. And now I can stand it up. And lastly, removing the clamps and driving in the screws. Okay, that's done, and thanks to the rubber and the foam, the concrete tiles are now securely squeezed in place. Nothing's moving there. That's good. If you wonder how I now get the leveling feet underneath, well, therefore I have my lovely buddy, the lifting table. The top is the last piece missing. It's done. I'm not gonna apply a finish, because I mean, it's temporary. But it has the features I wanted, that being accessibility for clamps all around, a good standing and sitting height for me with leg room, but at the same time it's heavy, sturdy and grippy enough for heavy use and stay in place. Good. And the concrete on the sides look, I don't know, interesting. So after seeing all this, how long do you think is temporary until I want to upgrade this workbench? Pause the video now, make your guess in the comments, because my guess is 3 years. See you on the next one. Oh crap, still have to clean up the panto router.